So about 2.5 months, 3 months now, I actually got laid off from my job. The whole purpose of a hedge fund is to literally make as much money as possible. It's corporate greed. I like to think that I have a really, really high risk tolerance. Like if you look at my stock portfolio, it's 90% tech.
And how long were you in the banks for?
I was there for about a year. It was probably one of the worst jobs that I've ever had. Crypto, it's very common to see double-digit percentage swings in a single day. I've always been that finance nerd talking about, how to optimize your credit cards, that you should be investing and saving and all that stuff too. My friends, they didn't give a fuck. What's going on, guys? My name is Eric Pan, aka Ericnomics. I'm a personal finance content creator with over 200,000 followers across Instagram and TikTok. I've worked in banks, hedge funds, and in crypto, and I've amassed a sizable nest egg portfolio and teaching my audience that anybody can do it too. We'll be talking about career, high growth investing, AI, and crypto, so tune in to listen to the full podcast.
So, Eric, thanks for coming on. And I heard
Thank you for
that,
having me.
yeah, and I heard that you just got let go from your job.
Okay, yeah, so
I'm s- So, but the good thing on the flip side is that you don't have to look for another job, right? So tell me a little bit about that, and then we'll go back to how you started and come to this place.
Yeah, of course. So about 2.5 months, 3 months now, I actually got laid off from my job. So I was working in crypto for a little bit. Now I unfortunately got the call that I am no longer going to be at the firm. So here I am now doing content creation full time as a finance content creator. And luckily, I was, able to build this sort of like online presence for a little while. So once I got the notice that I am no longer working at the firm, this really poses a super interesting opportunity to go all in on this content creation journey that has sort of been a passion project for the last 2 years. So here I am now.
Yeah, and a lot of content creators online uh, do not have the credential or really the experience working either in a financial institution or for a hedge fund or for a real crypto institutional side of things. And I heard that you do have those experience. Can you let us know your journey and how do you get to this place?
You got it. Yeah. So I have a very traditional finance background, studied finance in undergrad, so went down that route. First job out of college, worked at a bank. Second job, then I transitioned over onto the hedge fund side. Was there for about 3 years or so. Worked with some of the most brilliant people in the world, top portfolio managers, billionaires, like legit billionaires and such. Then got a little bit tired of that, moved on to a fintech investing app. Spent also 3 years around there as well too. So that kind of merged on the institutional to the retail side. And then I went back to the institutional side. So then I went into the crypto institutional qualified custody side. So worked there for the past 2 years too. So got the experience from, working in traditional finance on the stock side and then on the crypto side as well too, which has also sort of been my more recent passion as well.
Yeah, that's crazy because you have so much experience on that. But if we dive into individually deeper, your first banking job, was it at the branch level or was that in the corporate setting? And what were you doing?
No, no, yeah, not retail banking or anything like that too. So I was actually doing like back office fund admin. So what that means
Yeah.
is that we were doing all the administrative things for the hedge funds. So people who are, high net worth individuals or pension funds or, institutions who wanted to invest into hedge funds, they had to do all this like subscriptions documents. So AML, KYC, things like that. So was doing all of that, which is how I was actually able to transition over onto the fund admin side too. That's how I essentially got poached.
Yeah, so for people who doesn't know what AML means or KYC means, can you just quickly explain that?
Yeah, so AML is anti-money laundering and KYC is know your customers. Essentially, you have to know your customer exactly what it sounds like to make sure that, they have a clean background or not, a convicted felon or anything like that too. The funds that are coming in aren't from terrorist financing or any illicit activities, things of that nature.
Yeah, thanks for the explanation. And how long were you in the banks for?
I was there for about a year. It was probably one of the worst jobs that I've ever had. So
Why?
had
Why is that worth job? I know as a admin, most people have, might find admin boring, at least for me. Is that
oh
why?
no, it was just because like the toxic work culture of people over there too. I don't know what it is in traditional finance, and that's how it actually was sort of like in the hedge fund as well too. Some of the most cutthroat, some of the most toxic people that I've ever worked with or even met in my entire life.
At the banks or at the hedge fund?
Both.
Or okay, okay. Um, do you want to give us one example, or maybe a better question would be, why do you think they have to be that way?
Yeah. So finance has traditionally been a very cutthroat industry from, for decades to come, right? This has sort of spawned a culture where you have to work hard, you have to put into 80-hour weeks, you have to be making money. Everything is about the bottom line at the end of the day, too. So if you're not throwing your colleague underneath the bus to get a competitive edge, that means you're the one that's also going to get cut as well, too. So the whole institution, the whole industry has sort of bred this sort of culture to begin with.
Yeah, I remember like Warren Buffett even said he doesn't like the culture of Wall Street, right?
Yeah,
I believe he said that,
it's
right?
true. It's very true. The things that you hear, um, the 100-hour weeks, the constant, I guess, schmoozing of clients, so you having to go out, buying bottle services, things of that nature.
So you experience all that.
I did not do that part. Because I wasn't in investment banking per se, because that's exactly what you got to
Yeah,
do. So luckily on the
yeah,
hedge fund side, on the asset manager, the buy side, is a little bit better.
yeah. You're on the buy side. Can you explain to people, just for example, people might not know what sell side means, what buy side means. Years ago, I didn't know, right? What does sell side and buy side means in the banks or the hedge fund world?
It's a great question. So in traditional finance or in investment banking, you have the buy side and the sell side. So starting on the sell side is typically like research type of things too. You're selling research, you're selling products and stuff like that to the people on the buy side. So on the buy side, it's exactly what it sounds like. These are asset managers buying assets who manage these assets for them. So they're customers of each other.
There you go. This is one of the best explanation I have heard. So you went from the bank, you were on the buy side as well, but now you move on to the hedge fund, right? So how did that happen that you start working with billionaires? How
Yeah,
did that
yeah.
transition happen?
So when I was at the bank side doing the fund admin, my experiences from doing all these subscription documents and all of that processing stuff for these same exact clients that we were serving, then I was able to kind of just like schmooze my way into there. And then was there for like the next 3 years. Little did I know those next 3 years were going to be like the most hectic and craziest times of my life, as well as the most stressful times of my life. But I would say that is the time where I actually learned the most, not only from like the investment standpoint too, but also like a career standpoint to be able to how to best position myself to leverage the things that I have on the table to kind of get the best possible outcome.
Mm. So hedge fund, a lot of people is like hedge fund could be big, could be small, right? What's the biggest hedge fund in the world right now?
It's
Renaissance,
no, it's
Bridgewater,
actually Bridgewater.
right? Bridgewater, right?
Yeah.
So for people that doesn't know hedge fund, what does hedge fund really do? Because like people has been requesting me to open my hedge fund using our own set and done strategy, right? And to me is that if I have a good life right now, why do I bring on more trouble? I did this for the lifestyle of things, but I believe a lot of people in the hedge fund, it's a game for them. It's a game for them. It's about always winning, always leading, right? So
Yeah.
like tell me more about why do people open hedge fund and the interesting story and the story, the stressful life of 3 years of yours. I want to hear about it. I think most people don't never have experience of that, right?
Yeah. The whole purpose of a hedge fund is to literally make as much money as possible. It's corporate greed, no doubt about it, right? You're talking about the most powerful people and institutions investing their money and putting their money into these hedge funds, and trying to get the most returns out of it too. That's why you see the likes of Bridgewater, having AUMs of exceeds $100 billion and such like that too, because they're just so good at what they do. But then obviously, not everybody is qualified to even be investing into the hedge fund. You need to be an accredited investor, and even that minimum bar of being an accredited investor, having a net worth of $1 million or a annual income of 200K per year, that is bare minimum. Most of the time, you have to have a net worth of like 5 million or even more
A
than that.
qualified clients, right?
Exactly
Right?
right, too. So we're talking about municipalities, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, things of that nature. So billions and billions of dollars. Like the old hedge fund that I used to work at, before it actually started taking a tumble, was actually probably top 11. It was like right on the 11th
No
mark.
way. How, okay, you don't have to mention names, but people already kind of know top 11. What was their strategy and why did they tumble so we all can learn?
Yeah. So they actually had they were multi-strategy, right? So they were long, short, convertible derivatives, arbitrage, murder arbitrage, anything underneath the sun.
You're losing a lot of our audience here, but long, short, most easy to understand. So maybe just explain long,
Oh,
short, and
sure.
everything else is just, I think, gonna go over people's head.
Yeah. Long short basically means, in layman's terms, stocks. If you long a stock, that means you're betting it goes up. If you short a stock, that means you're betting it going down. That was one of the five main core pillars of the strategies and everything like that too. That's the easiest thing that I'm sure everybody can really grasp. So that was just a portion of the multi-strategy portfolio that they had.
Mm. So what what did you learn in that 3 years working for a hedge fund? And I don't know what was their AUM. If they're top 11, I'm sure there's over 1 billion that they're managing, right? What
Yeah.
did you learn? What does the hedge fund do that the normal people are not doing? And that gives
Yeah.
them the edge.
So one real edge that these institutional clients and asset managers have is just resources, it's just money, right? You know, the quintessential research tool that these people use is a Bloomberg Terminal. That's
Really big.
2 grand a month,
Yeah, it's
you know,
25,000 per year, right?
exactly right, or something like that.
And
So
what's a Bloomberg terminal? What kind of edge does it provide for people in the hedge fund that normal people would not pay for 2K per month?
yeah, just think of Yahoo Finance on steroids, right? Like you have a freaking supercomputer that has all the financial data points that you essentially need to do all your research, rather than using a combination of five different websites to kind of like scrap things together. So that's what it essentially is. A huge database of whatever you need to know. And that is the quintessential research tool that you need to be, you know, a finance bro, or to work in the industry and such.
So if that's the case, if it's so easy, why not I just go, you, me, a few other friends, we come up with $2,000 per month and just buy the Bloomberg terminal and the grass is greener on the other. So why don't everyone just do that and beat the hedge fund then?
Well, here's the thing. The Bloomberg terminal is simply just a tool. You have to know how to use a tool. You could have like, a freaking hammer, but if you don't know how to use it, it's completely useless, right? So you can
Yeah.
have this archive of data. Like you could be in the middle of like, a library, having all the information that you need, but if you're not going to consume it or apply it in a certain way, then it's completely useless. These are just like, paperweights at that point.
Crazy. So how were you guys using Bloomberg Terminal on your long short strategy that we just talked about? How are you guys using it?
Yeah, so all right, don't get me wrong. Like I was not a portfolio manager or anything like that too. So like I was not on a trading desk executing these trades per se. However, I did, I was on the opposite side where I was actually able to read all their theses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what's going inside their head on why they're executing these trades and stuff. So a lot of it is quite complex, not gonna lie. So I'm not gonna bore everyone over here and stuff like that too. But like one example that I actually used on a previous chat was that, you know, hedge funds use satellite imagery. to look at retail parking lots to get a sense of foot traffic at retail establishments. So they are getting live data feeds before their quarterly earnings. So they can also use that for agriculture, for live crop feeds. They could use that for commodities like oil tankers and stuff like that too, because oil tankers at the very top of the lids, it's a floating lid, right? So if it's full, the lid is all the way at the top. If it's anything but full, it actually kind of recedes down a little bit. So you get satellite imagery looking down upon that, and then you could actually see how full these tanks are, essentially, and then do that on a mass scale. You could predict or project commodity prices and speculate or whatever it might be.
So how much does it cost for you and me to get a satellite image like that? Is it the same as a Bloomberg terminal?
They don't. Bloomberg Terminal does not have that, and I have no idea how much that will cost. So can't help you
Because
there.
that sounds like such an unfair advantage that people have, right? Some people is gonna drive there, some people gonna call people, but no one can lie about that floating device. No one can lie about how much traffic is outside of the retail store and all that, right? That just like you can't lie about that,
You can,
right?
yeah, you can. This is like real-time data. Yeah,
Wow, that's just crazy. Yeah, it will be interesting to know how much they actually pay for those. Now, what else did you learn when you're working in this hedge fund that makes you think it's like just unfair, the advantage that they have? I know it's money, right? They have satellite image, they have Bloomberg terminal. What else? Just to give
yeah.
people the idea.
I think a lot of these bright minds also have a sort of a contrarian thought process as well too. So I guess like that kind of goes back into this Warren Buffett saying of being greedy where others are fearful and being fearful
Look at
when
it.
others are greedy. So this kind of contrarian mindset kind of puts you in a position where like things are sort of down, and if things are down, people are essentially like running away, and there's blood on the streets, but they see it as money signs and buying opportunity, and they're plowing in to be able to best position themselves to be able to capitalize on this. So a lot of the times is that.
Hmm. Hmm. That's just crazy. That's just crazy. Now, is there any interesting story you want to tell us where you're working in the hedge fund? I know I promise I'll carry on, but just we don't get a lot of people that used to work for hedge fund. If they're working for hedge fund now, for sure they're not talking on this podcast. But you work in the hedge fund, and that's close. That's a recent history of things, right? And you said that was the most stressful 3 years. Can you kind of tell us why that was so stressful,
Yeah.
right?
Aside from, I guess, the long hours, is just the kind of environment that you're in. It's a very high pressure environment where like you're expected not to make any mistakes, and if you do any mistakes, you're in the ringer. You get yelled at, you get put on the blame, all that type of stuff as well too. So I was living with my parents at that time too, about like an hour out. So each day was a commute of 2 hours. So I had to wake up at the butt crack of dawn. I went to the gym. I still wasn't trying to maintain a sort of a healthy lifestyle, so I would hit the gym super, super early, work 10, 11 hours straight, hit the gym again, and then go home, and only for me to like eat dinner and go to sleep and just do it all over again.
And then were you making like crazy amount of money? What people talking about working for
So
a
no,
hedge fund?
I was not, just because like as a pleb, as an analyst, I
Pleb.
was really
Is
not
that what
like.
they call it? A
Yeah.
pleb?
No, I just call it a pleb, essentially. So I was not, and I was also technically back office as well too. So, however, even first year analysts on the front office side can make a substantial amount of money, because obviously, like their compensation structure is a base pay plus bonus performance incentives. So if the fund is doing well, and they have a banger of a year doing like 30% or something like that, their bonus is going to be a fat bonus. My MD, or my managing director, sorry, probably had like a base salary of like, I don't know, probably like 250K, but his bonus was probably like a couple mil. Who knows?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you think that's why, like, is that still the case for like these investment banking industry and all that? Because I heard a lot of things change, become more competitive. The AI come in. So in the past, there used to be 10 traders. Out of 10 traders, Nine of them are human, one of them are AI, but now it's nine AI and one real trader. Is that
Whoa. I actually was not even aware of that. I mean, like I've been a little bit disconnected from that for a number of years now, so I don't know if that's actually the case. And obviously
that?
AI is still a really, really early type of technology that we're seeing right now too, but I guess we are starting to see it implemented in real world. However, I would be actually very surprised if they're starting to replace bankers at this point too. I don't know if you actually just saw like a story yesterday about how McDonald's was using AI to take orders and they kept on fucking people's orders up like crazy. So you can't get voice recognition on taking orders. I'm kind of skeptical about people being replaced from AI robots.
Before you left, what was AI taking over in the hedge fund industry?
It really
And
didn't
when
have.
was that? When did you leave? Just for people's
Yeah.
perspective.
I was there in 2016 to 2019. So it was
Okay.
still quite
5
a
years
number of
ago.
years. 5 years
That's
ago.
before
Yeah.
Chat GPT comes out,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it
So it
kept
didn't
getting
have.
faster, right? Every version they kept getting learning faster, learning more, and all that. But this is up to 2019. What we see that the hedge funds were using, because this is a top 11 hedge fund, right? In terms of asset under management. So they
Yep.
must have some kind of edge. What were they using AI to do for them to help them to maintain their edge?
To be quite honest, I don't even think they were employing any AI type of stuff too.
Brilliant.
They just had some of the most brilliant minds within the industry, honestly. These people had masters, PhDs, all that type of stuff. Every type of qualifications that you could ask for, CFAs, all that stuff.
Hey Wellbusters, I just want to put on a side note, I do not run any ads on this channel. So if you enjoyed the video up until this part, make sure you like, subscribe, and share with a few friends that can benefit from this. And let's get right back into the episode.
That's crazy. So do you think people are overly concerned about AI at this point? Well, what's
You
your
know,
viewpoint on AI? I want to ask you as a someone has seen totally different things, right?
yeah, I think AI could be a really powerful tool, right? Right now, it's still a little bit in its infancy stage where we can't, we're starting to see it being applied in real world. So I think we're gonna probably see a world where we will use it in conjunction of, human people alongside them. So it's more of like a tool rather than like a replacement per se.
Thanks for sharing the story about hedge fund side of things. Can we get into a little bit of crypto? What were you doing in the crypto industry? How do you go from hedge fund to crypto?
Yeah, so while I was actually at the hedge fund in 2017, that was during the crypto bull market. So, like myself and every other person, we were trying to get a piece of the bull run, essentially. So I threw in like, a few $1,000, made a couple bucks, lost a bunch too, as well too. But that sparked a huge interest in crypto, and I was like, oh shit, this is amazing technology. This I could see this being the world, like the future of the world. So ever since then, I started going down a rabbit hole of crypto, trying to consume as much information as possible, learn it as much as possible, and then I was like, shit, I want to work in this industry. Like despite the shithole and the volatilities of it, I was like, I am not going to be as knowledgeable from like a retail side if I don't work in it on the institutional side. So I started to essentially try to put my foot in the door of like any crypto firm that I could essentially work for, and then I landed at a qualified custodian. So what that means is basically like a lot of these asset managers, like hedge funds nowadays, are actually sort of getting crypto exposures on their balance sheets. So
Dude,
if they buy like a boatload of Bitcoin, they're not going to hold it on like a flash drive and then sock it away in someone's drawer or something like that. It's not safe, right? So they needed to essentially a safe place to store their crypto. And that's where a qualified custodian comes in. Also, like registered investment advisors, RIAs, are legally required to have their clients' funds in these qualified custodians,
there's
per
him.
se. So that's where I was at. So we had essentially at its core infrastructure, it was like a security company, right? So we
Yeah.
were holding crypto for government institutions, actually like the DOJ, pension funds as well too, some of the top VCs in the world, all of that type of stuff too. Um, they had a reduction in workforce probably a little over a year after I had joined. And then I had hopped over into another qualified custodian. So the top two out of the top four qualified custodians on the market.
You work for.
Yeah, exactly.
And what do you see? And why is qualified custodian so important for normal people or investor in general? Why is it so important?
Yeah, so qualified custodians are basically a designation from like a government entity saying like, hey, you guys are a qualified person that can hold other people's assets. You have the infrastructure in place, you have the security in place, you have the insurance in place to hold people's assets, to give them reassurance that, you know, their funds are not going to be lost, essentially. So you're talking about billions and billions of dollars assets under custody that you have to have these safeguards in place, these procedures, all these guardrails to essentially give trust in people that this is a safe asset class to invest in.
And being working for a qualified custodian, does that give you any edge on the crypto investing?
So I would say so just because being working at a qualified custodian, we worked with essentially all of the top crypto VCs in the industry. So we see where the money is flowing. We see where they're putting billions, if not hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars into certain projects that might not be launched. But we can see the category that they're sort of like, you know, investing their money in. Are they putting their money into DeFi? Are they putting their money into restaking? Are they putting into real world assets, GameFi, whatever it might be? So we get the general sense of where the ball is rolling, and then, you know, that kind of gives me a competitive edge to, you know, see what industry might spur up from that.
Yeah. So now you probably see where the next question is going to be. Now that you don't work for them, are you following what you have seen now that you don't have any clearance issue? Are you actually using what you have seen and allocating your asset accordingly?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. And to be frank, not so much. Although I probably should be, just because I am more of like I'm in the camp of thinking my allocation should only really be in Bitcoin and Ethereum. These VCs are, you know, risk tolerances up here. Mine is over here, right?
Yeah.
So they're
Explain what
putting,
VC's
oh,
theory is, right? For people who doesn't know venture capital, what was your theory about success?
yeah. So VCs are venture capitalists. So they essentially give capital or funds to early stage projects to kind of not bootstrap, to essentially jumpstart them. These, you know, smaller projects have a brilliant idea, but what they're lacking is just funding. So these VCs inject them with money so they can essentially grow. That's the pure play, like Silicon Valley, like playbook that we've seen for every single like startup that we've seen within the last decade. So they essentially have the job of foresighting where the industry will be next. So they're taking a huge bet on where, you know, the next industry will be. So the money that they put is sort of pretty nominal for them, but the returns are outsized. It's very, very common for them to make 100x on their returns because they're so early stage.
They're really trying to hit the home runs, but a lot of times they would just keep swinging, right?
That's
But if they just
exactly
hit
it.
one home run, that's gonna get everything back and more,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So like chances are like one out of like every like 20 or one out of every 50 will be a home run. But that one out of every 20 or 50 will make up more than all the 19 or 49 others that they lost money on.
Yeah, that's just crazy. So now that you say VC's risk tolerance is here, but yours is here, and you say you only focus on your Ethereum and Bitcoin, is that kind of what your allocation looks like? Again, not stock advice or not crypto advice, but
Not
just your
financial
personal
advice.
sharing, not
Yeah,
financial advice.
right.
Gilbert.
So, like, I like to think that I have a really, really high risk tolerance. Like, if you look at my stock portfolio, it's 90% tech and stuff like that,
Oh,
right?
wow.
I'm 30 years old. I have a really high risk tolerance. So even for me to, have crypto exposure, my risk tolerance is more than 99% of people within my age bracket and stuff like that too. However, VCs are on another level. I'm here, they're over here because they're aiming for those home runs and stuff like that. I am not in a position where I can swing 50 times only to win one time.
Yeah, yeah. So what's your like, let's say if you have, okay, $100, you want to invest into crypto, how are you allocating these?
Yeah, so I am more of like a utility guy. So most of my allocation is actually in Ethereum versus Bitcoin. There's a lot of Bitcoin maxis out there saying like, oh, Bitcoin is the only thing that you should ever invest in. Uh, don't get me wrong, I love Bitcoin, but I love Ethereum more because I like it being useful. Bitcoin is more akin to gold, right? It just holds value. Very similar to gold. Like you can't really do much to it other than maybe gold fillings in your teeth once in a while. That's really about it. Conductors and a couple of like electronics, but at its core, it's really used for wealth preservation. Same thing with Bitcoin. You can't really do much at all, quite frankly, as opposed to something like Ethereum, where you can actually use it as currency, transact with it, use it as gas, you could stake it, all that stuff. That's actually what I'm doing right now too. Staking is essentially like thinking of like locking it up as collateral and then you get some funds back. So sort of like interest and stuff like that. So I can earn interest on that. I can participate in DeFi activities, earning even more and stuff like that too. So that's why I like Ethereum a lot more.
And what's that? What's a realistic return expectation? Because like for myself, I'm doing stock option, right? I only trade the S&P 500 future options, and we're targeting, anywhere 18 to 54%. Now, that might not be appealing for a lot of the crypto boys and forex boys, but what is a realistic return for people that want a higher return? What is that when they come to crypto? What are they looking for? What's a realistic return that they're looking
Yeah.
for? Knowing that S&P 500 average about 8 to 10% per year for the last 30 to 90 years, right? So what is crypto's realistic expectation?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And
Good.
here's the thing. Crypto, it's very common to see double-digit percentage swings in a single day. It's not uncommon if you see it jump up 10%. It's not uncommon to see it jump down 10%, right? So this is the type of volatility that most people are probably not, that they can't stomach, which might not be appropriate for their own risk tolerance and stuff. So for like the degen boys out there, they love this. That's their whole personality, right? They have a very like manly, like gamblistic type of attitude and stuff like that. Is balls to the wall, like high risk, high reward type of thing. So this is perfect for them. However, I wouldn't say I'm like quite there yet, but like I love having exposure to it because I want the upside and stuff.
Got it. Got it. Got it. That's crazy. Like, thanks for sharing all the experience. Like, I want to hear now that you have the freedom, or you've been given the freedom. What are you passionate about right now with all that you know for the past 8, 10 years of working experience? Like, what are you passionate about right now going to the future?
Yeah. So I am passionate about educating people. So what that means is exactly what I'm doing in this whole content creation journey. This started off as a side project. Me, I've always been that finance nerd talking about, how to optimize your credit cards, that you should be investing and saving and all that stuff too. My friends, they didn't give a fuck. So I used, Instagram and TikTok as sort of like an outlet to talk about this stuff to maybe a somewhat engaged audience who wants to learn about that. And, that shit gets me like, I love that stuff, right? So here I am. I want to teach, as many people as possible to save for their retirement, to invest for their future, to have a wealthy future, to have generational wealth, all that stuff too. So that's why I'm like preaching to the choirs about, all this stuff on my page to to create as good and as much quality content to educate as a wider audience as possible.
Mm. Crazy. And what is like, do you have a goal in terms of that educating people? Do you have a numbers in mind, have followers in mind? Like how do you measure success in that?
So
Because when we're working hedge fund with banks, the KPI is very clear. As much
yeah,
money as possible, or at least beat your neighbor, right? But what is now that you're on your own, how do you measure your own success?
that's a really great question, and I'm also trying to figure that out myself too. But at the very end of the day, I am going to be content if at least one person gains value out of this and has, learned something about it. Because my goal is to try to cast a wide net and teach as many people as possible. But if all of those people are just surface level and just barely even learning anything, that doesn't do anything for me. But the people who actually message me saying like, hey Eric, I learned so much from your content, I just want to thank you for all of that stuff too, that hits home for me. Like, I love seeing that, and that's what I do this for.
Changing lives, right? Really changing life.
Exactly.
And
And this, and then on top of that too, I get paid to do this as well too. So I can make a living out of teaching people. So this is essentially a dream job now that, I got cut from my corporate job, and really posed a really interesting opportunity for me to essentially go all in on this as well too. So I am essentially living a dream of teaching people like how to properly invest while also getting paid as well too.
mm, mm, that sounds like a dream job. And definitely more busy than ever too, right? When you're building something on your own, there's no deadline, there's no one waking up in the morning, there's no one give you the pressure, but you still have bills to pay, right? So like I think only the people who have been there and done that. A lot of people look at, these YouTubers or influencers, they're like they're having the best life. But then do you think that's a real case where they're actually busier than ever?
Oh yeah, yeah, no. People are seeing exactly what these people want them to see, essentially, right? They don't see all the grit, all the back end stuff that requires to run this business, essentially. There's a lot of administrative things that nobody ever sees. So, like, don't get me wrong, like, I loved having a cushy paycheck. I was getting paid really well at my corporate job. I show up, I do my work, and I clock out, essentially, now, too.
Yeah.
But as a business owner, like, I quit my or you get it. I quit my 9 to 5 only to work 24/7, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I'm loving it. Like, I have a little bit more flexibility, but also still working more than ever. But I am enjoying it, so I feel more fulfilled. And I'm in a position where I am able to do this because even if I wasn't even getting paid doing all of this stuff too, I was able to amass a sizable nest egg to keep me afloat for quite a long time for me to do this for however long I want for until this sort of thing picks up. But luckily, it's already sort of picked up.
No, that's very impressive. We have a lot of things to chat on the side too.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I want to go through a fire round. And this fire round, why is it called fire rounds? Because we have Eric and I chat offline, and we found out some of the most viral video on Instagram. And we tend to think that that's where people really want to get an answer. So in case people don't follow you yet, I'm going to ask a few of those questions. Right? Do
Sure.
you mind if I do that?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Cool, man. So the first question will be, if someone just starting to invest, where they just been living in a cave, they forgot, whenever they're 30, 40, 50 years old, whatever, they have $1,000, or that just make it easier, $10,000. How should they invest in 2024?
Yeah, it's a great question. So that's actually, I made a video on that exactly. And that's actually what sort of got me a lot of traction and sort of set this thing in motion. I made a
Yeah.
video exactly on how to invest your first $1,000 in 2024. Now, it was a very general blanket type of instructional step by step. And this might not apply for everybody. This sort of applies for a younger audience, which is most of my audience, on how to allocate your first $1,000. So it was diverse, how to allocate, how to build a globally diversified portfolio in this year essentially too. So it was like, I think the S&P, the Nasdaq, a couple of mid caps, small caps, REITs, and international funds.
Mm, mm. Do you give an exact ticker, or you just kind of say some S&P, some NASDAQ, or do you actually give out tickers?
Yeah, exactly. So I actually gave down exactly the proportion too. So like two
So kind
hundred
of give it
dollars.
to us. What are you hiding from us?
So
Or you
I
don't just
can't remember off the top of my head, but it was like two
okay.
hundred dollars into S&P 500, so VOO. Another $200 into QQQ, which is the Nasdaq. $100 into mid cap Vanguard's ETF. Another $100 in Vanguard's small cap ETF. Another like 100 in like Vanguard's like REITs. And I forgot about that, but you guys can go watch the video on your own. It's pinned on my channel.
Yeah, go follow Eric if you guys haven't. I'll put the links in the description for sure. And just so you guys, in case you guys don't know, like my personal tax-free saving account has a very similar. I never watched that short video, but it has a very similar, but I'm a lot lazier. I have VOO, I have QQQ, and I have Google. Again, not stock advice, but last year I look at my 1 year is 36% year over year. Right? Not every year is like that. We had a good year running up. But
Yeah.
again, that just goes to say that, if you want to be more hands-on on your account that you can't do too much things on, that's more of a generational wealth. It can also be really easy to make it grow as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't have to be a genius in order to like, make money in this market. Yeah, having these low cost ETFs or even just solid, one pick like such as Google will essentially do pretty well for most of the time.
Yeah, that's just crazy. Now, do you have any traveling plans in 2024, especially maybe about Japan? Do you have one of those plans?
Yeah, yeah. So actually, after I got laid off, I went on like this month-long like Asia tour. So I went across 5 different countries: Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Vietnam, Malaysia, and everything like that. But however, I really want to highlight Japan because Japan right now has is literally the cheapest to travel in 34 years because of how weak the yen is to the US dollar, or in your case, the Canadian dollar and stuff like that. So right now, it's conversion rate to USD to yen is like 1 to 150. A couple of years ago or something like that, it was 1 to 100. So essentially, things are about a third.
50% cheaper.
Yeah, around like a third or so.
Yeah.
Because 150 to 100, that's about a third now. So your whole trip is essentially a whole discount. Now, however, your flight there is still going to be expensive and everything like that too. So, however, I didn't even pay anything for that too because I used points. I'm a points junkie as well too.
You're a point junkie, fly
Yeah,
business and all that good stuff.
yeah. I actually have a binder of credit cards. I have 21 credit cards in here.
Man, I have my own collection, but I lost track. I just told my wife to keep track of it. I don't really care. Just get the welcome bonus and that's it. I don't worry about other stuff.
But yeah, highly recommend Japan if you guys have not traveled there or making plans to, for the rest of the year.
I just called a few of my high school friends and they're all in Japan. They're all in Japan. They're just, and you guys wonder the reason why. I'm guessing is because it's so economical to go and so
Oh,
much more value right now, right?
yeah,
So much
100%.
more value.
Like Japan used to be one of the most expensive places to travel to back in the day. Now it's flipped on the head. It's actually one of the most affordable places to travel right now too, aside from like places in like Southeast Asia and everything like that. And honestly, I love it there. Like I would consider moving there. Like I love it that much.
Yeah, like even my dad and all my relatives, they really like Japan. Not necessarily for the exoticness, it's really for the safety, good quality of food, and really these two, safety and good quality of food and ease of just getting around the city, right?
Right, exactly, too. Just also the culture, too. Everyone is mindful. It's clean. It's safe. They've really fostered a culture where of just complete mindfulness of others. Unlike here in America, where like it's sort of like a shithole every corner you turn, or particularly in New York.
Yeah, Eric is from New York, so yeah, I mean, Toronto is turning into a New York, unfortunately. You can argue the opposite. I mean, Eric is coming, so you can let me know
I'll let you know
whether
next week.
whether Toronto is turning into a New York. But before I let you go, I want to ask this last question.
Sure.
people might be waiting for this. What stocks are you buying for the month of June, or maybe for the month of July when this episode comes out?
Oh, okay. So I'm keeping my eyes out. I'm still sort of sitting on the sidelines, waiting for a better entry, and then potentially seeing if any other catalyst event kind of comes in as well too. I am pretty big on all the tech plays as well too. So like the Metas, the Googles, the Apples, and Microsofts as well. I love Meta. They're a cash cow. They're so efficient with their cash. They're generating so much money. Now, I think the whole AI thing, I'm a little bit scared nowadays because it does seem quite overvalued with NVIDIA being number one now. Now, their growth certainly does justify it, but it does get me a little bit scared, not going to lie. So I am going to do a indirect play. So I like TSM, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing.
Taiwan. Do you know I'm from Taiwan?
Oh, yeah, you told me about that. So
Yeah.
I really like their economics, love them. So I'm going to do an indirect play with them. And then also, I am still highly convicted in crypto as well too. So the Ethereum ETF is anticipated, rumors to be anticipated to be approved by July 2nd or 4th. So I will keep my eyes out for that. Once that's approved, I will start buying some more into that. And then also the Bitcoin ETF as well.
So many things are happening. So many things are changing. And there's so many more opportunities as well, right? But at the same time, the velocity of the investment when the money are moving is so much faster too. So like from what I see on my standpoint is that the volatility would just become ever faster because it's just one click away for everyone. Back in the days, people have to go to the bank and the physical stock, right? But now people can one click away or stop loss, stop profit, everything just like boom, right? And everything triggers everything. That algorithm trading is like a trigger on top of each other.
Oh yeah,
kind of thing, right? So just be very careful with that, and of course, do your own research. Go follow Eric, right? Eric, do you have any last word of wisdom you want to let us know?
Follow Cody, yeah.
Only follow me for a stock option if you're a high income earner. You have a good nest egg set aside, and you just you want to make more than your typical treasury bill at 3 to 4%. And if you already have a good portfolio that is working for you, like no problem, just do what you do. But if you want a consistent, what I'm targeting, double-digit return, 30 minutes per week, then follow me. But if you want to follow everything else about individual stocks, Eric, crypto, Eric, your personal finance education, Eric, I think he shares a really good, really good tools and just real life trendy things, and he comment on those things in a very positive way as well.
Really do appreciate the kind words too. So yeah, I'll do a selfish plug. Go follow me on all the socials and stuff like that too. Talk about investing, stocks, real estate, crypto, credit cards, you name it.
Okay. Thanks for coming on, Eric.
Thanks a lot for having me, man.
If you're watching till this point, make sure you like and subscribe, and we have more episodes like this waiting for you, so stay tuned. And if you don't mind, give us a 5-star review so more people like yourself can enjoy episodes like this.